Hello, Elliot Brooks viewers. I am not Elliot Brooks. I am Sean. Today, I'm coming at you with a review of Monster by Naoki Urasawa. Urasawa is considered a master of manga, and Monster in particular is sitting at a cozy number 4 spot on my anime list. It's a website, and they have their best manga list behind, I think it's Berserk is number 1 on there, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is number 2, Full Metal Alchemist is number 3, so I thought I'd be like, well, I've heard nothing but good things about Monster, so I wanted to check it out. So here we go. I'm going to keep it spoiler free, which means this will be the vaguest of reviews ever, because I don't want to spoil anything that happens in this series. So first off, some housekeeping things. I think one of the complaints with manga, at least that I have, is sometimes the series are ridiculously long. Not so much the case here. This is the last volume of these perfect editions. This is volume 9. So these have 2 volumes in one. So originally this was 18 volumes, which still isn't that bad by manga standards, but you can pick up 9 of these if you want to read them. And I would recommend it. I think at the end of the day, it's a good series. I didn't love the ending. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So we'll start with, what is Monster about? Monster, once again, I'm going to keep things very vague, is basically about a surgeon in Germany. It starts in the 80s. His name is Dr. Kenzo Tenma, and he is basically framed for murder. He's kind of this incredible neurosurgeon. He's on the up and up. He's getting all these promotions, and then one day something happens. I won't say, but he kind of falls from grace, and soon after, 3 of the most important figures at the hospital wind up dead. So he's the primary suspect. He goes on the run to clear his name, and I won't say who the actual killer is because that's part of the fun, but it's good. Another key character in the series is the officer. He's actually kind of like the FBI. I think they're the BKA in Germany. There's a BKA officer who is trying to track down Tenma. He basically has no idea how there could be anyone else who's a murderer. It's all signs point to Tenma. So it becomes a cat and mouse chase between the two. Then obviously, like I said, Tenma is trying to clear his name. From there, I'm pretty much gonna cut it off because there's just so many twists and turns. I will say there's a ton of characters in this series. You wouldn't think so based off of what I just said, but this is definitely a plot-driven series, and more and more and more and more characters are introduced, it seems, every chapter. So sometimes you do have to keep track, maybe flip back, try to remember who people are, and that is probably a slight, very slight criticism I have of the art itself. Some characters I found children and older men, they kind of all look the same. Some characters are very distinct, and you see them enough where you know instantly who they are. And then there's some characters where, like, I don't remember which child you are, but that's okay. That is my very slight criticism. Otherwise, I really enjoyed the art. It actually grew on me quite a bit, where the last volume I was looking at it, there are a couple pages I just stared at for a little bit because there's just so much tension in the image. That's cool. Also want to kind of add on, it is about the plot. It's about a killer. It's about a murderer. So there is some violent imagery. Keep that in mind. There is also some very brief nudity. Usually it's when there's prostitutes involved. Kind of my final thought here is the ending for me left a little to be desired after reading 9 volumes. It's pretty up in the air as to what actually happens. There's some interpretation involved, which usually doesn't really bother me if I can interpret the ending in a way that satisfies me. For me, I'm not sure if I can in this instance. There's pretty much 2 ways I think of it, and I didn't really like either of those options. That's a personal preference thing for me. Immediately after finishing the series, I was Googling what was that ending in Monster, and yeah, there's no definitive answer. So if that's gonna bug you, you might want to know that going in. Overall though, I'm glad I read it, glad I read the series. I think, you know, if I'm looking at my Goodreads or whatever, I think I gave every volume a 4, 2 volumes I think I gave a 5-star. I wanted to give the last volume 5 stars because there was a moment where I was trying to keep it together, trying not to cry. I didn't cry, but I had to keep it together. I wanted to give it 5 stars, but the ending, like I said, kind of knocked it down a star for me. I would say at least give it a shot. It's a thriller. There's lots going on, lots of characters. I will say it can be slow at times despite being a thriller. There are slow moments. They're usually chapters about characters you've never met before. They'll be in there. It works itself in. There's a reason for them, but it's almost like there's these moments of kind of slice of life, like you just meet these characters and you learn about them and their struggles or their good moments, that sort of thing. And sometimes they come back in the series and sometimes they don't. So I think it could have been shorter. It could have been a much more condensed series, but it does take these little tangents. Another complaint I've seen about Monster is our main character, Dr. Tenma, will go absent for many chapters. Like he will just it won't be about him. It'll be about some person who lives in some German town. And you're like, what does that have to do with anything? And eventually, it usually, like I said, it usually works in, sometimes better than other times. As cliche as it sounds, I'd say Monster, for me, was more about the kind of crazy, winding, plot-heavy journey than really getting attached to characters. And especially, like I said, with the ending, looking back, it was a good read. I had a good time, but the ending kind of wasn't solid enough for me. I'm probably in the minority on that, so don't take my word for it. With that being said, I would say this is probably a library recommendation for me. I wouldn't run out and buy this one. I got all of them from the library, so if it's possible, I'd start there. I would give it maybe 2 or 3. I'd say 3. 3 of the perfect editions, so 3 of these thicker editions. See if it's your thing. I found myself kind of the entire series, I kept waiting for like the moment where I understood like, oh, this is really fantastic. I don't know if there is a particular moment. If you're not feeling it after 3, I don't know if you'll ever really feel amazingly attached. It's solid. Like I said earlier, I gave basically everything, all of them 4 stars. If you like thrillers, if you like murder mysteries, check it out. And that is it. Thank you for listening to me sort of talk about Monster. I think it's too fresh in my mind. I have all these emotions. If you have read Monster, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the ending without spoiling anything, unless you put like a big like spoilers banner, because I really don't want anyone to get spoiled with the ending. Subscribe if you haven't. Subscribe because Elliot's videos are great. I'm not sure if I'm subscribe worthy, but you know, I might appear from time to time. Check out her Patreon thing. There's lots of cool stuff on there. And there's also a link for Save the Children. Check that out. Check out that as well. Thank you.